Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is the Illustrator, and I'm here to do a 1 month review. So yesterday marked the month time frame that I've owned this bike. Actually, it's been a little bit longer than that. Let me say I've been riding it for a month, because as you guys know from the video where I kind of broke down how I got the bike, I explained that like the bike was not running when I got it. Had to take it to Triumph Brooklyn. They sorted it out for me. From the time where I first rode it till yesterday, that was a month. Instead of doing like 2 separate videos of like 5 things I like about this bike, 5 things I hate, I just put it all together as like a 1 month catch up, I guess you would say. 1 month impressions. So I guess I'll start with the negative stuff, right? That's kind of the best note to start on, because you want to end on a good note, because I do like this bike, but there are a few things that I don't understand or don't like. If I could get my gloves together. You know what? I have to step off the bike for the first one. I don't like this kickstand. This kickstand keeps the bike up too upright. Like, it doesn't lean over enough. Like, that's way too upright in my opinion. Like, this kickstand is way too high. This makes no sense. So whenever I park this thing, I get kind of paranoid that it's gonna fall over. Second thing, it's kind of weird because you can't see if the bike is in neutral until you hit the kill switch. You would believe that the bike isn't in neutral until you hit the kill switch, and then everything else comes on. I think that's weird. Honestly, that's another thing I don't really like. I came from an FZ1 to this, and on the FZ1, the temperature they give you is actually a value, so you can switch it between Fahrenheit and Celsius. On this bike, just a bunch of bars. Like, I don't know what that really means. Just from having used the bike, I know that like about halfway to 75%, that's about where you want to be. Like I said, the bike is hot, as you can see, and it starts up easy, but when it's cold, bro, this thing is like, it takes a while to start. Like, you have to crank it, you know. Remember when I first got it, it would take so long that I would let it go after the first couple cranks and then try again. I realized, like, you know, this is why I'm doing this a month in, is because I know more about the bike than when I first got it. I know now just to hold it, and it'll crank up. It never really doesn't start, but it does take its sweet ass time. All right. I don't know if you like heard on the mic, I just shifted from first to second. It's pretty loud, like it's pretty clunky. I got multiple fucking the top of the line shit in here, 300V. Low speed is okay, but like when you get like the high speeds, it's a little clunky. It's a little more clunky than I'm used to. So if you guys like are 1050 riders, let me know if that's a normal thing. I mean, if you like clutchless shift it, you could basically skip all the clunkiness. I mean, when you're going from the other gears, it's smooth as silk. By the way, going back to like the starting, like the speed to start this bike, that's actually normal. Okay. Fucking dumbass. You guys are actually joining me on a very like English morning. Don't believe the clock on my on my dashboard. It's actually wrong. Yeah, like, I mean, the transmission is smooth. All right, so next thing I don't like, the suspension on this bike is very hard. I haven't adjusted it yet. I haven't touched it. This is just how I got the bike. I'm pretty heavy. I weigh 235. The suspension is just like, it's tough. So over stuff like this is fine. It feels sporty. When you brake, it doesn't dive like a FZ09. When you like hit the brakes hard on the FZ09, that shit is like a fucking pogo stick. But on this, you know, I hit the brakes. It's not too dramatic. So I guess that's kind of like a trade-off, basically. Though I would like to, I don't know how, bro. Honestly, like, suspension has always been like a black magic to me. Suspension and carb work, I've never been good at. So if I could like work something out with that, that'd be cool. But I'm just rocking it out as is. I just kind of like pay extra attention to potholes and shit like that, other stuff, because it does hurt. And I feel sorry for the bike when I hit hard stuff, because, you know, who wants to fucking slam your bike around? Oh, also, going back to stuff, honestly, like, a lot of the stuff that I'm complaining about, a lot of it is just like, I guess, just British stuff, right? Like, I've owned mainly like Japanese bikes. I've owned one BMW. That was a pretty fucking weird bike. This is my first British bike though. You can't instantly start the bike. You have to let the fuel pump prime, because you know, like Japanese bikes, it's optional. Like the fuel, you'll hear the fuel pump go when you turn the key and hit the kill switch, but you can just interrupt it and just press the button. This bike, no. You're letting the fucking fuel pump do its thing, because it will literally not crank until it's done. How would I say this? Like, even if the bike has a voltage too low that it thinks it's dangerous to start with, it will not crank. Like, it will just not turn over, and it'll kind of like throw you for a loop. Like, wait, what? But yeah, that's just how they have these ECUs programmed. These ECUs are very fucking finicky. I mean, the reason why mine wouldn't run right is they just had to reset it. I guess it's the typical like European electronic stuff, right? Let's get to the good stuff, you know, because I really do enjoy this bike. First thing I love about this bike, the freaking looks. This bike is like easily one of my favorite looking modern bikes, like, period. Honestly, it's probably my favorite, period. I can't think of anything that I like more than this, like in this very moment. Close to contender is probably the 09 to I think 15 R1. And the one looks like a fucking cat with his eyes stretched back. This bike beats those. And you guys know me, right? Like, I'm like one of those fucking vintage bike hipster guys. Oh, my favorite bikes are CBX. Oh, how unique are you? Like, this shit, I love how this bike looks. Oh my god, when I seen this bike for sale, I fucking jumped on it, because this color, you know, white, blue with the gold forks, because they had a white one for 2008, I believe, but that one had black forks. I like gold. And like, the bike is completely stock. Like, these mirrors are fucking hideous. Well, not hideous, but like, they make the bike look stock. I like that. You know, I appreciate that. I'm just enjoying the bike as it is, how it came from the factory. But it's annoying because I put two covers on my bike, and every time I take the covers off, the mirrors come out of adjustment because they're like putting so much tension on it. So that's kind of annoying. Whenever I get on the bike, like, I have to hope to God that the mirrors are in adjustment enough that I can hand tighten them, because other times, like, they'll just go completely out of adjustment and I'm fucked for the ride. So honestly, I know bar ends will look better, and I'm definitely like looking to get some, but you know, I'm just kind of like enjoying the stock look. This bike is fucking just, it hasn't been touched. I'm not in a huge rush to modify it. I picked up a stock set of headers because the headers on my bike pretty ugly, because they're so rusted out. So I got some really nice headers, I gotta say, on the side. They're used, but they're in like great shape. So I'm gonna drill those out for the pre-cat, pour and polish the header flanges, and then I'm gonna ceramic coat it so they stay shiny. With Triumph Speed triples, it's great because the cat is in the mufflers. That's why they're so fucking massive. You don't have to shell out a bunch of money for aftermarket racing headers. You can just, you know, modify the stock one. And I love the dual headlights up front. I don't really view the 90s as terribly old, because I was born in 95, I guess. My nostalgia, like, my old school shit is like 80s back. Like, when I look at stuff from the 90s, I don't think old. Since this bike is based heavily on the 955i, which is like the speed triple that came before this one, this bike is basically a board job of the 955i, right? So 955 to 1050, they boarded up 100 cc's. I think they gave us some cams, you know, they hopped it up. It's a factory hop up. These headlights are from the 90s. Like, it's the same type of headlight that was on a 955. They just kept it, which I adore. I put out the video about the 2005 versus the new one, and this is just like my wheelhouse right here. See that? Looking for the potholes. Because it looks like if you took the fairings off of a RC30 or one of the Ninjas from the 90s, and again, they mounted them to the frame instead of the fork. I love that. That's fucking awesome. I took this one photo. It was pitch black outside, and I focused in my camera on my headlights while they were on, and like, it just looked amazing. Like, all you saw was the two balls of light, and that photo got a lot of love. It's classy. It reminds you like an old Bugatti or something, you know what I mean? Like one of those cars from like the 20s with the two round headlights. The motor is also fucking amazing. Somebody asked me, how does this compare to the FZ1? The FZ1, I mean, you guys know, I changed the gearing out drastically on that bike because it had like the mannerisms of a touring bike, like a sport tourer bike. You know, a little bit more aggressive, but generally speaking, like, it wasn't really trying to lift the front wheel too much. It wasn't really short geared. Like, when I first got the bike, the first gear would take you to about 95. I geared it down to where I think it was like getting you to maybe like 84 or something like that, which is still fucking quick. I mean, anytime I race 2J, he's just banging through he's got an FZ09, he's just banging through the gears. I'm in first. Even if he has me off the line, he's not able to shift fast enough for me to, like, especially when the power comes on the FZ1, oh my god, you definitely feel that R1 motor beneath you. It didn't have that immediate torque. Like, you had to wait for it. So when I geared the bike up in terms of sprockets, like, even then, the bike would smoothly gain revs, and then, like, once you got to a certain point, that's when the front wheel would come up. This thing, like, when I first got the bike, I was taken aback because get out of the drag zone of the clutch, and now you have to drag the clutch to launch, and the wheel will come up immediately. As soon as the clutch engages, the front wheel was coming up. It makes sense because this engine is such a long stroke motor that it doesn't actually rev that high. Like, you can see the red line right there on the dash. Red line is just under 10. Like, 10 is red. It doesn't even go beyond 10. I think the ECU pulls power at like 9.8, maybe, something like that. I mean, some people raise the red line, but I mean, there's no point because, again, the motor is such a long stroke. It's not like the Street Triple or the Daytonas where it's like it's very square that you could take it up to 14K, you know, or thereabouts, or even at least above 10. You're not even like the FZ09. I think the FZ09 red lines are like 12, but this thing, that's all you need, honestly. And it's a little wet. But as you see, like, the front wheel, it just comes up from fucking idle. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So like I said, the FZ1, it makes its power higher. So inline 4 is geared very high. All the power comes in at the top. And the bike, the FZ1 had 145 horse, I think. It's like just under 150, maybe like 148, something like that. This thing has 130. So the FZ1 has 20 horsepower advantage, but it does not feel as quick around town. Like, this bike feels faster around town. And if you get this bike, you gotta be ready for power wheelies because they're coming, whether you want to or not. This bike is not for beginners. That's what I had to do. I had to, like, just literally practice power wheelies because I've never been a wheelie person. But it just comes up. And I'm not saying I'm good at wheelies, but I just had to get rid of the feeling that hits my gut when the front wheel comes up. Because I'm not a 12 o'clock boy. I might live in the hood, but that was never me. Also, people like this bike. This bike gets a lot of attention. And from people that I'd never expected to. I think a lot of people in the hood, they've never really seen a bike like this. Like a bike with, you know, single-sided swing arm, but like these fucking round headlights. Like, that's kind of contradictory. When you see some high-end shit, you don't expect like the throwback features of the bike. The bike is very unique in that aspect. The ergonomics of this bike, I really like. I don't count the suspension, the hard suspension, as ergonomics. What I mean is like bar position, seat position, peg position. So the bar is perfect. It's got an upsweep and back. It goes up and back. So this is like perfect bars. I don't even feel the need to change this. It looks great too. I love the chrome. I love the chrome all in this area. I'm not blacking it out. I'm leaving it chrome. It looks too good. The chrome is in such good shape. The seat has a very unique like cup to it. Like it cups my booty. So like there's like a little bit of a bowl feeling. So like when I first got on the bike, it was interesting to see like I sink into the seat. I mean, from your perspective, it looks like you're on top of the bike, but your lower body feels like you're in the bike. And that's a distinction that you can make with different bikes, right? So like when I sit on my CB, I'm on top of that bike. That bike is very low. The seat is a bench. The tank is flat. On a Super Sport, generally speaking, the Super Sport seat is like curved like this rather than like this. This is like a very, like it definitely cups you. Now on this topic of seats, like this pillion seat back here is fucking ridiculous. This is laughing stock. I mean, I already had a passenger on here and you know, she's tall and she's kind of thick. She made it out okay. It was only a couple blocks, but I definitely can't see like that happening for a long ride, you know what I mean? Especially with these dual undertail exhausts. I thought, honestly, like the heat shield would solve the problem, but the heat shields don't really do anything. Honestly, like they're gonna help a little bit, but they don't solve the problem at all. If you want to get a passenger, definitely ditch these exhausts because they're not suited for it. They lent the pillion seat on the 2008 model like refresh because that was a common complaint that people had. Like the pillion seat is just ridiculous. What are you doing? Honestly though, it's catch-22. It's ridiculous. I want to put any person that's like of size back there. at least for a long time. Like that's a trade-off, right? Like the bike has that stubby short tail look, which I freaking love. Insane proportions on this bike, but that's at the cost of bringing your favorite person along comfortably, at least. If you want to like swap over to the 2008 tail, I think you have to replace the entire subframe. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's definitely not like a quick swap. They changed the entire subframe to like kind of look more closely like the Street Triple, because the Street Triple came out in what, like 08 or 07, something like that. So yeah, they had to like bring that design language over to this. It's a little sketchy. And then like I'm on a convex street and there's kickstand, I just don't feel like the bike is secured, which I'm sure it is, but I just don't like it. So yeah, that is gonna be it for my 1 month impressions of this bike. I'll probably do another one in like 3 months if anything changes. You know, I'll probably change some stuff around on the bike. But yeah, overall I love the bike. I give it, let's see, I would give it like a 8.75 out of 10 as far as like day-to-day use. I gotta sort out that suspension and then maybe put a quick shifter on it. I think that will bump it up to like a 9.5. And this is my perspective from Brooklyn, you know, as a Brooklyn rider, because that suspension is not the greatest for these crazy ass piece of shit roads that we got here, especially when combined with the rather snatchy throttle. Throttle could be smoother. I think that could all be fixed obviously with a tune. You know, they have to do emission stuff and a bunch of other bullshit to make the bikes legal when they come out of the factory, so I'm sure that could be fixed with some tuning, the Tune Boy. I think that's gonna be it. Let me know what you think about the bike. Also let me know, you know, your experience with the bike if you have one. This has been the Illustrator, coming to you from the great city of Brooklyn. So it looks more like England today. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.